This is Garis, Masculist, MGTOW flyers. That is 2-3 page essays on the themes of masculism and MGTOW, written by and read aloud by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. This is flyer number 488, entitled Masculisting the Male Feminist Boyfriends of Monoconscious Feminazi leaders so that their boyfriends then dump them. Description. This video introduces a strategy that masculists can use to emotionally immiserate the lives of their bitterest enemies, that is, the Monoconscious Feminazi bigot MFB leaders, by masculisting their male feminist boyfriends / partners / husbands. These former monoconscious male feminists will be influenced and informed by masculist ideas, thus becoming biconscious, who then see their monoconscious feminazi bigot MFB girlfriends / partners / wives as bigots and dump them, thus profoundly hurting them, which is a very effective way for masculists to revenge the massive gender injustices that the MFB leaders are committing against men, and perhaps motivate some of these MFB leaders to convert themselves into biconscious feminists. Now the flyer itself. Masculisting the male feminist boyfriends of monoconscious feminazi leaders so that their boyfriends then dump them, by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. This flyer introduces a tactic that the mascs can use to revenge their most hated enemies, that is the MFB leaders, that is the monoconscious feminazi bigot leaders who have so oppressed men in the divorce courts, etc. The essential idea is to masculist these women's boyfriends / partners / husbands, so that these men become biconscious masculists by absorbing and being influenced by masculist ideas. These men then become biconscious and start to see that their monoconscious girlfriends / partners / wives as bigots, and then become disgusted with them and dump them, thus emotionally immiserating them, causing them great emotional stress and poverty, since these women will be deprived of love, affection, tenderness and sex. Masculists have a hatred towards the MFB leaders who have done so much damage against men, particularly in the divorce courts, which they have taken over and caused the financial massacre of one married father in 4. Masculists are thus strongly motivated to punish these women by hurting them profoundly. This flyer introduces a very effective tactic that will indeed deeply hurt these women, emotionally immiserating their lives by causing their boyfriends / partners / husbands to become biconscious, become disgusted at the bigotry of their monoconscious girlfriends, and then dump them. 99.5% of women are heterosexual. That is, only 1 woman in 200 is lesbian. So the large majority of feminists have boyfriends / partners / husbands whom they rely on for their sex, companionship, love, orgasms, etc. Thus, if the masculists can cause these men to dump their monoconscious feminist girlfriends / partners / wives, then these women will really suffer, which is the whole point of this flyer and this masculist tactic. As stated above, the masculists have a hatred for what the fluffy feminist MFBs are doing to men in the divorce courts, causing one married father in 4 to be financially massacred, ripping his kids away from him, losing his house, half his wealth, half his stuff, forced to pay for his kids whom he will barely see, and often to pay alimony to his ex-wife, with no moral nor legal obligation on her to get off her fat, parasitic ass and fip up. This massive gender injustice committed by these hated MFB leaders who dominate the divorce courts generates a burning hatred in masculists who are strongly motivated to destroy these MFBs, ultimately with bullets if they succeed in wiping out whole populations, as they're currently doing. This flyer introduces a tactic that will deeply influence the emotional lives of these hated MFB leaders by causing them to lose their boyfriends, thus plunging them into emotional poverty, manlessness, sexlessness, lovelessness, babylessness, etc. This masculist tactic works as follows. A group of masculists creates a list of MFB women in their area to be targeted, and then does a bit of research, creating a second list of these women's boyfriends / partners / husbands, together with these men's addresses, emails, websites, etc., and then initiates a masculist publicity campaign, sending these men links to masculist videos, books, pamphlets, etc., aiming to cause these men to be influenced by masculist ideas, so that these men then become biconscious, who then begin to see their girlfriends / partners / wives as bigots, as close-minded to the idea that gender oppression is a two-way street, and that in fact women oppress men far worse than vice versa, with their many decades-lasting gender crimes against men, especially with Fluffy's decades-lasting financial parasitism, manslaving men for decades of their lives, which are major gender crimes in the eyes of the masculists, which merit these women being exterminated slowly, by being severely punished, by not getting a man, by being totally ignored by men, not even being pumped and dumped by men, forcing their fluffy feminist MFB genes to be removed from the gene pool. These initially male feminist boyfriends / partners / husbands will of course be highly intelligent, since they are the boyfriends of the MFB leaders, who are also highly intelligent. You do not get to be a leader of large numbers of feminists if you are a fool. Betty Friedan, or Friedan, for example, the mother of the second wave of feminism, who got the whole movement off the ground with the publication of her book, The Feminine Mystique, was a genius with an IQ of 180, she said in one of her several books. Thus the men targeted by the masculists will be highly intelligent, and thus be quick to see the sense and the logic in the masculists' case, who have very powerful arguments that are virtually impossible to refute. For example, that women now have, thanks to men, a life expectancy of 85 years. And even if they have their 2 kids and stay at home with them when they are small, these women still have a career window of half a century, so come under tremendous moral pressure from the masculists to fip up by bothering to get a career competent education, so that they can pull their own financial weight and not expect, fluffy style, to parasite off the money and labour of a man for decades of his life, thus manslaving him for decades. These highly intelligent male feminist boyfriends will see the logic in these masculist arguments and be strongly influenced by them, particularly given the fact that they are, after all, males themselves. They will then, by definition, become biconscious. They will begin to see their monoconscious girlfriends as bigots, and their growing frustration with the narrow-mindedness and bigotry of their monoconscious girlfriends will fester and fester until they can't take it anymore and simply dump their MFB girlfriends, thus causing their girlfriends a lot of pain, as these MFBs are taught a bitter lesson that their monoconsciousness has cost them the terrible price of losing their male life partner, plunging them into a life of manlessness, penislessness, babylessness, affectionlessness, lovelessness, etc. So they will really suffer. Hopefully, and this is the real point of this masculist exercise, some of these MFBs will not be so bigoted that they may actually do a U-turn in their gender political views and make the effort to study some masculist ideas, trying to put themselves in the shoes of the men they financially crucify in the divorce courts that they control, etc. Thus, some of them will convert themselves into biconscious feminists and hence lose a lot of their monoconscious anger against men that feminism has taught them. They will have their feminist anger at men for the ways that men oppress women cancelled by a corresponding and oppositely directed anger at women for the ways that women oppress men, especially with their decades-lasting man-slavery of men. That causes the masculists to aim to wipe out these man-slavers by totally ignoring them. If this tactic succeeds, then the masculists can approach the media and spread the idea that MFB leaders usually pay a very heavy price, and that is that they usually lose their monoconscious boyfriends, since such men then become the targets of masculisting campaigns by the masculists to convert the monoconscious male feminist boyfriends of these MFB leaders into biconscious masculists, who then dump them, walking out on them for these MFB's gender crimes against men. As masculist consciousness rises and rises around the world, there will be more and more such political, social, psychological campaigns by the masculists, such as the above. Masculists are men, and men are smart and creative. So once there are millions of us, we will put our male masculist heads together to create new ways to fight against monoconscious feminazi bigotry. The above masculisting of the monoconscious male feminist partners of these MFB leaders is only one such tactic. There will be many more. Stay tuned. Cheers. Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. Author of the book Masculism, Men's Rebellion Against Being Man-Slaves to Women, and e-textbook of 480 plus masculist flyers for men's studies courses, freely downloadable in Microsoft Word format from my website. Ciao.